Welcome to the Rapaport Market Comment. This video is brought to you by RapNet, the world's largest and most trusted diamond trading network. Why is there such a lack of demand for diamonds in China at the moment? Last week we analysed this on Rapaport.com and the video you can watch here at this link. During my research I came across some important data that I want to share to help us understand this topic. A bit of context. Consumers in mainland China are showing little interest in diamonds right now because the economy has weakened, they see gold as a better investment, and the marriage rate is falling. Overseas diamond suppliers are struggling to find business in this once important market. As well as a lower volume of sales, a downtime like this often brings a shift to cheaper diamonds. The reasons are obvious, but the reality is a little more complicated. Let's go back to the data I mentioned. The National Gemstone Testing Center, China's state-owned grading organization, provided some numbers showing the proportion of diamonds it graded in the first 9 months of last year and how this compared with the whole of 2022. The NGTC grades most diamonds at the end of the Chinese market, so it gives us an idea of the types of stones in demand in China. We need to be cautious about drawing too many conclusions from one set of data like this, but I think there are some noteworthy trends. Let's start with diamond size. In 2022, 52% of the diamonds the NGTC received were in the 0.30 to 0.39 carat range. However, in the first 9 months of 2023, this fraction declined to 45%. For the same periods, the 0.40 to 0.49 carat diamonds jumped from 8% to 20%, and 50 pointers were stable, while 60s and 70s were slightly up. At first glance, this seems odd. If consumers had lower budgets, you'd expect a shift to smaller, not larger stones. But if you look at price performance in 2023, it makes a bit more sense. Prices of 30 pointers didn't plummet in 2023 like some larger stones did. And remember that the 30 pointers are traditionally one of the most in-demand categories in China. In the first 9 months of 2023, the wholesale price of around 0.30 carat G-color VS1 Clarity diamond rose 1.7% according to our RapNet data. The price of the same diamond but 0.40 carats and not 0.30 carats slumped 16%. This graph shows the price performance in percentage terms, and you can see that for around 6 months there was a big gap. So while a 40 pointer cost more than a 30 pointer, the price difference for most of this period will have been much smaller than usual, encouraging dealers and consumers to buy the larger stone for a potentially better price. Let's move to colour. Again, there was a shift towards higher colours. In 2022, around 61% of diamonds were in the D to H range, whereas in the first 9 months of 2023, this increased to 76%. The proportion of diamonds with I to K colour fell from 27% to 23%. David Liu, a consultant to the NGTC's Shanghai lab, believes this shows consumers sought fewer but better diamonds. I think it's also because the wealthy in China continued to shop, being less affected by the economic downturn, whereas the medium and low income groups stopped spending. This would naturally skew the total towards higher quality diamonds. However, when you look at clarities, you get a different picture. Far fewer stones with the higher clarities, VVS1 and VVS2, passed through NGTC in January to September of 2023 compared with 2022. VS1 and VS2 increased a bit, but the proportion of diamonds with SI1 clarity rose sharply from 20% to 27%. This means there was a shift to higher colours but lower clarities. Why would this be? One conclusion is that when budgets are tighter, people are more likely to compromise on clarity than on colour. Clarity is less visible to the naked eye than colour. Most VS2 or higher diamonds are eye clean, which means you can't see any inclusions without a loupe when the diamond is face up. SI diamonds can also be eye clean, but you have to pick the right one. It seems that Chinese dealers or consumers were willing to give this clarity grade a chance last year. But price is also a factor. The lower clarities fell in price last year because of poor US mid-market demand and competition from lab-grown, as we have discussed in past videos. Look at this graph. That top line is the same category as before, round 0.30 carat G VS1, which remember rose 1.7% in price. If you change the colour to I and keep everything else the same, you'll see the price fell about 10%. However, if instead you change the clarity to Si1 and keep everything else the same, you'll see the price tanked about 25%. So an Si1, if you pick the right stone, could get you a fantastic deal. Whereas if you selected the lower colour, you get a relatively cheap price, but the stone wouldn't look nearly as good. I can't say for sure that this reflects the choices of consumers or of the jewelers and dealers higher up in the supply chain, but it does seem that during the recent slump, people in China have been seriously searching for the best deal possible. If you like this video, please subscribe to get every new one we make on a weekly basis discussing trends and analysis in the diamond industry. Thanks for watching and enjoy the rest of the week.